Big news. OpenAI just released ChatGPT Images 2.0, and it is really solid. Stick around while we cover how to prompt this new tool, as shared by OpenAI. At a high level, define mode, such as aspect ratio, then lay out background and/or scene. Next, define the subject or subjects, followed by spelling out the key details. And finally, add any constraints to the prompt. Tune in, as this is covered throughout this explainer video. The source is the OpenAI Images 2.0 prompting document.
Early AI image generators trained us to act like gamblers. You typed a few vague words, hoped the algorithm understood your intended aesthetic, and hit the reroll button over and over until you got lucky. That trial and error loop fails in a professional workflow. Real production requires exact control over layouts, typography, and visual data structures. This diagram shows the specific flow of cellular respiration. If you are creating biology materials for a classroom, you need the arrows connecting glycolysis to the Krebs cycle to point exactly where they belong, and the molecule labels to be factually accurate. A random, artistic interpretation of a cell is useless here. The GPT Image 2 chat interface provides the controls of a professional production studio. To get results, you must provide a brief with the technical precision of an art director. Achieving this consistency means abandoning the search for a lucky prompt and adopting the rigid language of constraints. A controlled image follows a specific prompt formula. You establish the background and scene first, define the subject, list the key visual details, and finish with your hard constraints. Before describing the subject, lock in the mode. Specifying the visual medium, like 35mm film photograph or flat vector logo, forces the model to load the correct physical rules for lighting and texture before it renders a single pixel. Next, apply the rule of specificity. Broad terms like professional often yield a plastic, airbrushed look. Concrete descriptions like visible pores, sun texture, or fabric wear ground the image in reality. The final step is establishing negative constraints, stating exactly what to exclude, like no watermarks or no extra text, stops the model from taking creative liberties that clutter your design. This structured formula turns a loose suggestion into a mathematical blueprint, ensuring the results are predictable. Beyond composition, we can now exercise micro-level control over layout and typography, areas where older models frequently struggled with unreadable shapes. You can dictate text accuracy by placing the copy in quotes and spelling out difficult words letter by letter. From there, you define the font style, color, and its exact placement in the frame. This is a pitch deck slide detailing market opportunity. Notice that the data points for total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and serviceable obtainable market are correctly structured and rendered inside the concentric circles. Look at the bar chart below the circles. The model renders the specific year labels from 2021 to 2026 and perfectly spells out AGI Research 2024 in the footnotes, avoiding the scramble text typical of earlier AI generators. Reliability in text generation makes the system a practical choice for production-grade enterprise design. The highest level of control uses multi-image referencing, allowing you to combine elements from several input images into one cohesive scene. In a virtual try-on workflow, you need to map new clothing onto a person while locking their face, expression, and body shape so their identity stays consistent. To execute this, you provide the original photo of the model alongside separate images of specific items, like these suede boots. The AI treats these as raw ingredients for the final composite. You then use surgical constraints to manage the edit. Your prompt explicitly dictates what must be preserved, like the subject's face and the original lighting, and specifies that only the garments should change. This eliminates the guesswork, allowing you to manipulate existing photographs with the same precision you'd use to generate a concept from scratch. Absolute control rarely comes from one massive paragraph. It's built through conversational iteration. You start with a solid base image. Once the composition is correct, you follow up with a short instruction, like make it look like a winter evening with snowfall, to change the atmosphere without disrupting the scene's geometry. If a stray element appears, you don't rewrite everything. You simply say, remove the flower from the subject's hand, and the model executes a targeted edit. The technology has reached a point where the bottleneck is no longer the machine's capability, but the clarity of our instructions. Combining structured constraints with multi-image iteration puts the final result in your hands. You are directing the specific reality of the render rather than rolling the dice.